Ramsgate station. I was meant to be meeting Zoe back at Bromley, but she missed the train. Never been one to be on time, so thought I'd just go anyway. Meeting her down the beach later, so you'll see her then. Yeah, so I used to go around here quite often, being that I went to Christchurch University, Broadstiars campus. Ramsgate, just past Joss Bay, we're in Kings Bay now. Kingsgate, don't know what you want to call it, but that's where we are. I am now here with lovely Zoe. Hello! The rest of the plan so far is to walk to the bay, we'll probably drop the bag and things off there, and then either carry on over to Margate, or because the weather's turning in a bit, we might just stop and chill there for a bit. So, this book came in the post today. It's from the exhibition that you've seen the rest of the video over at Turner Contemporary in Margate. I really like it. It sort of covers and spans a wide range of the coastal photography sort of scene. It goes back from traditional sort of tin type photography being taken at the beach, all the way up to modern technology, digital photos like the work of Anna Fox's, and with, I wouldn't say old technology, but like you look at Rob Ball's work with these 10x8 Polaroid slides that he uses. You know, that's old technology being used in a bit more of a modern-ish way, I think you could put it. Just mentioning Anna Fox, her sort of holiday scenes of recording the oddities of people. It's Martin Parr-esque in my opinion. You know, looking at how how we do things, but in a particular way and style. The book and the exhibition was put together by Karen Shepperton and Val William. You've got work in here from Martin Parr and other very well-known photographers. Other collections have given some of their stuff to it. There's a series of books that, for the life of me, I couldn't read the tag that it was on. That's nothing against the exhibition itself, that's me. I'm not a very good reader. From the Turner Contemporary, you go in through the main doors, which are these big huge glass panels, and you've got a collection of books just on the side, which any of them I'd recommend reading and picking up. They're all great books. You can pick up the book at the exhibition as it stands at the moment. It talks about artists, the ones using the space, as well as the history, and this is an island nation in our interest with the sea. I think that's the best way to put it. An island nation with an interest for the sea. Like, if you're landlocked, you've not really got a lot to do with the sea. You know, it's, I wouldn't say an alien concept, but it must feel different if you've lived your entire life with nothing but mountains and landscapes, and having an ocean and the sea at your fingertips or doorstep or a train ride away must be kind of strange. Do tell me if you feel differently. You know, you might be landlocked and still think the sea's... I keep looking down because I'm still flicking through it. I only got this an hour or two ago. I think all photography can be summed up a bit like these sort of collective books or exhibition books, in that you're seeing a subject or a subject matter collectively being shown. None of these individual photographers. You couldn't say one of these bodies of work shows the beach or coastal communities or our interaction with the sea. So Anna Fox's work doesn't show off the same sort of beach environment as Rob Ball's work, and doesn't show off the same as Karen's work, it doesn't show off the same as Martin Parr's work individually. But the whole point of having exhibitions and books of this nature is to bring it all together and display it. I think the bit on the back of the book really sums up what I'm trying to say. Like, not every photographer's individual work sums up the sea as a whole, and even a large collective like this, which had lots of names in it and lots of different influences and inputs from it, still shows off the coast entirely. And the back of the book says, from roaring waves to intimate portraits, no one can tell exactly as it is, can tell it is exactly as it is. So you're terrible at reading, I miss out little words. Now, from studying with Karen at Canterbury Christchurch University, and really taking on board her views from the sea and her importance is, and reading a few different books and different things that she's been involved in. So there's that book, and there's one I'm going to talk about in a minute called Beyond the View, which I've got on my shelf. And seeing her work with the Sea's archive and being introduced to artists both through her and Rob and a few of the other lecturers we had there, to seaside photography and to that particular sort of world of images, as well as my own personal interest in the sea and surf. And Karen says it really well when she's talking about deep diving into a subject and learning about it. So you start off at the beginning just sort of dipping your feet in and looking at things and making up whether you want to go in or not, and studying the ideas that are in that aspect of photography and just having a brief look. You know, I'll go down to the beach today and take a few photos, and then I'll read Last Resort by Martin Parr. You know, just pick it up once, have a flick through, put it back down, and then if it bites your interest, you go a little bit deeper and have a look at, okay, so what's the ways of photographing these sort of things, you know? What techniques or methodologies or mediums or ethics go into it? And then eventually you just start diving in deeper and really immersing yourself in the subject. Beyond the View, another good book, again from the Sea's archive and from Karen. You can see where I've got a lot of my interest in books from, you know, core bunch of lecturers, but like I was just mentioning about the deep dive, you find a core subject matter and a set of people that tell you about it, and that helps inform and develop your understanding. So my original interest in beach and seaside photography came from Martin Parr. Not being hugely knowledgeable about him, I knew about the photos and I knew about the work, and I could articulate what the photos were about, but I didn't know his background, the universities he went to, work that extends beyond the seaside. Like, he's done his old race courses ones, he's done portraits, town fairs, you know, taking a larger look at the British people and British landscape and our idioms and idiosyncrasies and just the nonsense we get up to. So Beyond the View, another good solid read, if I could, is looking at more the background again. The Seas photograph book has aspects of this in it, but not this book. That's looking at the beach and the sea as an overall aspect. It goes through a wide history with lots and lots of backgrounds, where this is more talking about Sunbeam and other small companies around photographing at the coast, particularly in Thanet. That's where the Seas Archive specialises in, or not specialises, keeps its work from. It's looking at the history of the sea, particularly within Thanet. It goes over the contextual history of Sunbeam and photographing at the coast back, I'd say relative history, like it is a long time ago. I think some of the work in here is from the early 1900s, looking back at work from like 1953s, and even further back. There's definitely work in here, the mid to early 1800s, with tintypes on little pocket-sized sort of frames. It's this history of the coastline, the contemporary aspect of it, that I find really interesting. So seeing Dreamland as it was 70, 100, however many years ago it is, and comparing it to how it was when I first encountered it at the ages of like 5 back in 1998 or something, and then what it was like through the early 2000s to what it is now. You know, seeing the photographs that make that history up, being able to relate to it but in a really odd sense. Like, okay, I can see the sea, I can see the harbour wall, and I know what that bit feels like. I know what standing at the beach and having your feet in the sand feels like, and so does thousands of people. Not being able to understand the feeling that kids of that time would have had, because obviously our entertainment, although is rooted in that history, has developed with technology and development to a whole new level. You know, my idea of a theme park or a fun park or a roller coaster is Soar, Swarm, Thorpe Park, Chessington, where the rides, again, all hail from those traditional rides, but are now 4 times as fast, 3 times as high, on a different scale to where that world was and how those holidays were run. You know, you look at Butlins now and it's all about, or look at Butlins and again Anna Fox's work, and you can see how that differs from like Heidi High and the way holiday parks used to be run. You know, you could talk to your grandmas and grandparents and they'll tell you about, you know, you went down, things were run very quieter, more like a, you know, your school sports days at primary school than they are now, where it's all about having massive swimming pools and massive slides. Those things existed, Lidos and different aspects were still around, but it wasn't the same. But they found it fun and we still find it fun, it's just a different sort. I think being able to see and relate to the work, even though it's, you know, some of the images are more than 100 years gone from this, well, not gone from the world, but gone from this time, still being able to be like, yes, I get that, I can see what that is. Or like the family portrait at the beach, the amount of people when I'm walking around taking my own photos, or when I'm just walking at the beach or sitting down having 5 minutes going out for a surf, the amount of people you see at the waterfront or up against a wall with chalk graffiti on and sitting on the beach and they're taking photos, and yes, it's on their phone, but the way they get people to sit, the way they get people to smile, that sort of, you've come on holiday, you know, your kid's messing around a bit, sit down, be quiet, smile, listen, sit with mum, that's it, squeeze in, everyone squeeze in, and sit there, and then just, that's not changed. the availability of the camera has. So again, Sunbeam and the other photographic companies up and down the coast, they would come along, photograph you, and then you go back and pick up the photograph the next day or at the end of the holiday, especially around half terms and May bank holidays. You know, you had that long weekend, you came down on Friday midday after work or whatever the last shift that you were on was, you sit on the beach for the day, and this guy with they're massive cameras, by the way. I saw one in my last year of uni. It's like, well, it's bigger than I can show you. I need to swap lenses to do that, but huge, break your back sort of walking around camera full of paper negatives, which is something we might talk about another time. Came round, took your photo, gave you a number if you were interested in it. A day later, the next day, you'd go to this wall, find your photo and buy it, which for some people, buying photographs in that method doesn't exist. You don't think about it, you've got a phone now. And that's where the relation goes to. It went from these massive cameras to personal cameras if you were rich enough, or disposable cameras for the mass market. You know, you took it to the chemist and they'd develop it, the same sort of idea. And then it's digital cameras. Now it's grown into iPhones and Instagram, which not slating at all. I completely see the need and works for it. Just the feel of it all is different. You know, the picture you get on this compared to the pictures you get from this. There's just a world apart in my eyes. Pictures on your phone, you'll save them there, they'll sit there for a few years. You might delete one or two because you're running out of space, or depending on how good your phone is, you might have to delete the lot and then they're gone. Or you lose your phone and it breaks and it's gone. You know, you can never get the photo back off your phone if you lose the picture, where with these or from film, you can always, as long as you've still got the negative, you can just get them infinitely printable. You can always go back and get them. There's no time loss as long as you've stored them nicely and kept them in reasonable condition. It's a much more not sustainable, but a much more developed process.